I get a nice warm cup of coffee. I sit down. I open the book, and it's in Norwegian.
Only you would not flip the book open before you bought it.
Welcome to Classical Etc. You're in the studio with Memoria Press.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Classical Etc. We are coming to you live from the Great Homeschool Convention in Cincinnati, and I'm glad to be here. It's good to be in Ohio. It's been a good crowd.
It has
Everybody had good conversations?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. It's been great.
I know. A couple of you have had talks. I know, Martin, you've done some talks here.
Mm-hmm.
Tanya?
No.
Did you do any? Oh, you did?
No.
Okay. Sometimes you do.
Sometimes I do.
Yeah. Well, today is going to be a mailbag episode. Some of it are going to be questions from the podcast, and some of them are going to be live from the audience, which I am excited about. So have them locked and loaded. But just like always, let's go over what we've been reading. Anybody had the time to do that lately?
I'm reading The Seahawk by Raphael Sabatini because that is our Memoria Press book book.
Yeah.
I'm not liking it as well as I liked the other Sabatini books. Oh, you haven't read it yet, so you don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what my problem is. I usually love his books.
Yeah. Well, you're The Black Swan and Captain Blood with the other
Captain Blood, yes. I think maybe because I read the other Bennett sister that I loved, and then I read Theo of Golden that I loved. And so when you read books that you really, really love, sometimes you need like a rebound book, and this may be my rebound.
Well, this one's, I don't remember most Sabatini books having two distinct parts. Mm-hmm. This one does.
Yes.
And I remember the second part being better.
Okay. I'm going to persevere.
Okay. Paul, is that what you're reading too?
Well, yes, but I also went to Books in Bloom this morning. And Books Bloom. I always call them Books in Bloom because I feel like the book should be blooming.
And that's a local bookshop here in Cincinnati.
No, it's a booth at the conference.
Oh, it's a booth. Okay.
It's a used book booth. And every time I go there, I walk away with about 5 books. So I walked away with 5 books, one of them being Mary Poppins. So I read a chapter of that this morning.
Delightful.
Wonderful.
It's fun. Martin?
Well, I'm, I've read all the, and listened actually to all of the Louis L'Amour novels.
Again?
That Audible has published, and then read some of them too. So I had to resort then to the collections of short stories that were on there. There's quite a few collections of his short stories, and I read all of those. So now I'm on the radio dramatizations of his stories. So I'm in the middle of...
So you're a Louis L'Amour fan?
Slightly, yes. The Collected Baudry Dramatizations, the 3rd volume.
When were those recorded?
Those were recorded in the 60s, and I think actually most of them in the 70s.
Fine.
Because his son, Beau L'Amour, he's managed all of his rights and in the estate and his books and everything. And I'm really glad because he did a really good job he's overseen all of the dramatizations of a lot of his novels. And I normally would not, I never listened to radio dramatizations much. These are really excellent. And, this was done at a time when studios had studio bands that would play, older instruments. Like when you hear an old episode of like the radio show Dragnet or something, they've got an in-studio band playing the music. So everything fits. You listen to now a lot of the things on Audible that have any music in there, and it's just generic music. It doesn't have anything to do with the story. So these were all recorded at a time when they still had those in-studio bands doing the music. So I think they're very well done. And then also, I've been reading Lois Lenski, the children's writer. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of what are some of her famous books.
Did she write Number of the Stars?
No, that's Lois Lowry.
Yeah, that's right.
Lois
I can mix them up too.
What did she write?
But anyway, Lois Lenski did a whole series of books that were based in regional cultures. So she they had stories of people all around the country. And one of them takes place in Kentucky. It's called Coal Camp Girl. And it's actually a really convincing rendering of what life because I've read other stories about the old coal culture in eastern Kentucky. And So Coal Camp Girl by Lois Lensky actually is a pretty convincing little portrayal of this little community.
Is this a children's book?
I think it's meant to be. It's very short, but I was actually reading them because I was looking for other children's books to talk about, and so I've been very pleased with Lois Lensky's Coal Camp Girl.
That's right. I just finished The Women. I think it's on your book list.
Kristen Hanna.
It's good. It's like other books I've read of hers. 95% of it is just a lovely pace. And then the last 5% is a sprint, which is just an interesting way to write. You have to
Theo
finish.
of Golden was like that.
Oh, really? And it makes me remember I have to finish books because if I would have quit, I had 23 pages left and I did not like it. And if I would have stopped there, I would have had no idea how she came to a resolution. Does that make sense?
Because it was so fast.
It was so dramatic. There were a million changes all at the end.
I'm sorry. You would consider stopping a book 23 pages from the end?
She does it all the time.
I quit books. I'm a quitter.
She hands me books or she'll say, I've got this book for you. It's really, really good, but I'm probably not going to finish it.
I do that. You know what? I just started 84 Charing Cross Road.
Is that not amazing?
So good.
I love
I saw
that
the
book.
movie.
Oh, it's a movie?
You should read the book.
I didn't know it was a movie.
Isn't that one? Anthony Hopkins is in it, and I forget the actress. But
it's about letters that people write back and forth from the British bookstore to the woman. Oh,
it's a very good
really?
movie. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it's fantastic as a book. Anyway.
Oh, it's a great book.
Yeah.
You really should read the book.
Yeah, I have a whole bookcase full of books I haven't finished.
Well, we all do.
It's a genre of book.
The unfinished books. That's funny.
The unfinished book.
Jessica just gives them to me.
I do. That's funny. Well, on to some listener questions. How about that?
Sure.
The first one is going to be from a gentleman I just met at the GHC, Missouri. There was a GHC 2 weekends ago in St. Charles, and his name is Mark, and he said, "Can you please answer my question?" I said, "I promise you we will." His children go to a classical school in St. Louis, and he is now on the board of that school. But his question is, how does he get the board on board with classical education? He said they care because their children are at the school, but they may not know necessarily everything about classical education that he's trying to learn himself as an adult with it not having had a classical education, but really caring about it and caring about the trajectory of his children's, how the school goes, how the curriculum is chosen. But he's like, how do I get people on board?
Paul and I are thinking the same thing. We have gone and talked to boards before.
Well, he said, do you think they would come talk? We would host them for a weekend. And I said, yes, Mark.
Of course we would.
on.
But we've had some really strange, one in particular.
I hear a story coming on.
Well, the board was just, they thought they weren't on board really with the rigor of it. But by the time so we were talking to them about how to slow it down, how to make it easier in the classroom. And then all of a sudden they were like, but we don't want that.
Yeah, we had already implemented our curriculum there a year prior, and then they were complaining about how rigorous it was. We suggested slowing it down, and they were like, no, we don't want to slow it down. We love what they're learning.
So by the time we finished, they had done a complete roundabout, and we're not quite sure what we said to make that happen.
But then the board was on board.
Maybe I better go and talk.
So then we left, and everything was just exactly the same as it was when we came.
Yeah.
But it went well.
It did. I guess so. They're still at it.
Well, this is a common problem, is board vision drift.
Yeah.
And I was visiting a school just this last year, and that's what had happened with the board. And, it's so easy because when there's turnover on the board, you can have a lot of new people come in a pretty short period of time. And all of a sudden they're questioning what you're doing. And because they have no institutional history.
Well, even if you have like a 5-person board, you get 2 new people on there, and you have one person that's easily swayed, and all of a sudden the board's doing something completely opposite.
Or one person who takes control of the board, a strong personality, and they're not on board.
board.
Keep saying
It's too punny not to.
But they're not. They don't. share the vision that started the school. That's the whole purpose of the school. And
it is very important that the board know what's happening and that the board understand classical education. So good for him, for thinking about that and for wanting to do something about it. Sometimes boards can read a book together or even just an article and get together to talk about it, but they should be coming always to any kind of parent meeting or anything like that, which a lot of times boards don't. They don't show up at the things that could help them understand better what the school is doing.
That's a good point.
So they've got to do their job as well. They need to understand it. But the thing that I see and that we saw in this meeting that we came out of thinking, what happened here, was that what they were seeing, even though they were questioning it, what they were seeing in their children is what ultimately convinces them that this is the thing to do. Because the children are really the best example of what we're doing. And their children are coming home knowing Latin, picking out derivatives in their reading, and being able to do so many things that are impressive. I remember just being shocked at what my children could do after being in Cheryl Lowe's little cottage school just for a little bit.
And that's a testimony to the parents in and of itself. Yeah, right. Okay.
But you really do have to have, ideally, I think that a prospective board member should be catechized before he takes a position on the board. I think that, and schools don't understand the importance of that at all, and this happens all the time. So I think that the board just needs to share the vision, and there needs to be some series of things that ensure that.
But I would also say, if he's trying to effectuate change, right? So they've a current school, we want them to become more classical. Then what I would think, and you need to know the dynamics of how the board interacts with the head of school and how that works. A lot of boards are hands off, and so you may just be able to affect more change by having a good relationship with the head of school and the principal and the teachers, and just like giving them resources that then as they read those and they become catechized, then the board will actually respect more when their teachers and their principals come in saying, I want to do this. That sometimes can effectuate change more easily.
That's a good point. And I'm glad you mentioned in the beginning that he also can reach out to us and we can certainly help, even by physically going, because we do that all the time. Okay. We got an email from Kristen, and she says, my question regards my 15-year-old son. He's been homeschooled since 3rd grade. We moved from curriculum to curriculum as I searched for that elusive education rather than modern schooling, trying to prepare him for a good life rather than just a good job. He's now in 9th grade. Where do I start him on this path of a classical education since he comes so late to it? Do I have him focus on Latin, Greek, logic, literature? And then, so that's the main thing. And then she says, is it too late to switch him to even like an online class at Memoria? Should we focus on something in particular?
Well, I always tell people that the first thing you ought to do is start Latin. Because that is, grammar is fundamental to everything. There's all this talk about thinking skills and all this stuff out there. Well, the best thinking skill is to study Latin grammar and study Latin in a grammatical way like our programs do. So that's the first thing. And the second thing I think is literature. Start having them read, classics or versions of the classics at first that are easier probably. That's what I tell people to do. What do you tell them to do?
I would say the same thing. And then, to start, I would hesitate to start logic. I would wait a year.
Oh, yeah,
I would I wouldn't start too much at once. So,
that's good advice.
Because that's overwhelming. So start Latin. If they haven't read, a 9th grader, even for literature class, could read Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. I would recommend, if they don't know Greek mythology, that they do that the summer before.
Like a classical studies.
Yeah, just read through Greek myths just to understand, because there's so many of the it's just
a lot
crucial, really, to understand that. It'll make it a lot easier. And then just add maybe logic in 10th grade, which would be fine. Traditional logic in the 10th with your second year of Latin. It's never too late.
I know that was what I
anything at all that you do is going to be helpful when students are adults.
And if I could expand mine just a little bit, I mean, I think Latin and math on the skills side, those are the two basic skills subjects, and that we don't think of math as classical. Math is totally classical. Listen to what Plato says about math. And then literature and history as your humanities subjects, the arts and the sciences.
To be a little bit more concrete, when we're talking about Latin, because she asked, is it too late to start in the online academy? I mean, a ninth grader could start doing Henley Latin. The online academy has classes to begin Henley Latin for that age group. So it's never too late. We have pathways in.
That's what I was going to tell her, that there at any level, there are entry points with online classes that correspond with Memoria Press. So absolutely. And logic might be in 10th or 11th grade a great one to do in an online setting, because you're going to have a logic teacher working through the material. And that might be a really wonderful way to get the content in. And if she wants to sort of outsource something in an online format.
I know a good book.
That's right. Right. The author right here. Yeah. Great. Okay. Should we do one more quick one and then open it up?
Sure.
Okay. Here's one last email question. This is from Stacy. She says, I'm curious if anyone has an author vetting process they go through prior to beginning reading a book, specifically nonfiction. And she says, have you ever chosen not to read a book based on their worldview? And how do you make those decisions?
Well, that's the worldview question.
I know. I thought that was,
Because I don't think you want to not read a book because it differs from your viewpoint.
I think that's maybe you do, though, if it's a nonfiction book.
I think I want to know what the arguments are against my position. Because
well, if that's what it is, if it's actually something that's going to be against your position.
Because you need to know what are the weaknesses in what you think. There may be, and you won't know them if you never read any argument against them. So
Correct, but I also do think that sometimes you look at a book and its arguments are so extreme, you can tell that you say it's not even worth engaging with this.
Sure.
Because it's not like a good faith argument. Does that make sense?
I mean, a fiction book that comes from a perspective that I don't agree with is far more dangerous to me, I think, than a nonfiction book where it's right out in the open in terms of what the position is. You see what I'm saying? Because there's a subtlety about fiction that, it can what's the word? It's harder to identify what the problem is with a fiction book written by somebody who's got something wrong with the way they think about the world than it is with an argument, a clear argument in a nonfiction book.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Because you should.
In a fiction book, though, typically if the author's presenting something that's cattywampus, if the story is true to life, you're going to see it work out in a cattywampus way, right?
Well,
the consequences of the actions of the characters.
Or you would see that this story doesn't actually follow because what they're trying to present is off kilter. I
just think it's easier for an author to sneak things in a fiction.
Well, right. I mean, that was Plato's point about music, right?
I think, though, if we actually looked at most authors, you could find something that you disagree with.
Sure.
And I feel like I never vet an author for fiction, but for nonfiction, I do want to know the credibility of the person that I'm reading, whether I agree or not. I want it to be somebody credible, or I feel like I'm wasting my time.
That makes sense.
That to me, as an adult, is the bigger question to me. Is this going to be worth my time, rather than do I already agree with your argument or not? Like, we don't always want to Martin's point, we don't always want to read something that we agree with.
Right.
We want to challenge that.
As adults.
As adults.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting question. I agree. Sometimes I do read things that I don't agree with on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've read a lot about progressive education
Mm-hmm.
because we need to know what we're fighting against.
Mm-hmm.
So we do read things that we disagree with. But as far as vetting the author for fiction, I just don't. They don't. A lot of the authors I read haven't led really morally upright lives.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I'm trying to remember the last fiction book I read where I thought the author had some view of the world that I fundamentally disagreed with.
Mm.
And I know I have, but I can't remember. Now,
War and Peace.
no, not War and Peace. What is, there's there's a Western author, Wendell went to school with him. Larry McMurtry.
McMurtry.
Okay. I will say that, what's his most famous book?
Lonesome Dove is the most famous.
Second most famous?
I don't know.
No, it's there was a movie they made from it with Sybil Shepherd. Do you remember? Oh, God.
Can't help you.
Okay. Anyway, he wrote a book and I totally disagreed with what was going on in the book. I didn't see any redemptive value to it. That was probably the last book I read that, if I can remember the title of it.
We will never know.
Yeah, I'll have to announce it on a later edition of the show.
Yes, we could look at all the movies Sybil Shepherd has done and find the one that she did that Larry McMurtry wrote.
Yeah, but I will say in the second book in the Lonesome Dove thing, even though I have problems with the way Larry McMurtry views the world, there are still things that are in the book that are worth reading. I used one in an article I did in our magazine about I think the problem with evil or something, and it was a perfect illustration of what I needed, and that was true. So even though the author may have some problems, it doesn't mean there's also not a lot of truths in it that you still can.
Yeah. I had somebody tell me once that they didn't like Narnia Tolkien didn't like Lord of the Rings because they felt like Tolkien should have written just like Christian,
it should have been more clearly allegory.
Christian works and not really allegory. But you can go really far. If you say, I'm only going to read Christian fiction, what is that?
Good question.
What?
Yeah.
How do you? I just think as adults we can decide. I think for children we have to be very careful.
Right.
Okay. But she's asking us, right?
God wrote the story of the world, and there's a lot of parts of it where it's not apparent that it's a Christian world. So is he implicated here?
God?
Yeah. He's creator, right?
Okay.
Well, right.
I was just applying this principle and showing how absurd it was.
But
Yes.
It's called the reductio ad absurdum. It's in my book.
Okay.
And
What book?
right, just the story of David, right? If you're going to discount authors, well, then you can't read the Psalms, right? If we're looking at the moral,
Right.
Right.
If you're only going to read a morally upright author, who is that?
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's maybe time to open it up to the audience. If you have any questions, we would love to hear from you. And there's a mic right there. So come on up.
And then you get to be on Classical, etc.
That's right. Yeah.
Here we go.
Good evening.
Hello.
I always enjoy the podcast. My favorite part is you all discussing what you're currently reading. I've enjoyed many books vicariously. So I have a question about augmenting the reading experience. Is there something for each of you that pairs well with a great book? A roaring fire, pot of tea, a drink of some kind? What makes a good book truly a great experience to read?
That's a great question.
For me, it is my morning with my first cup of coffee and just knowing nobody else is up and it's just me and the book and the coffee and cats running around, but I try to ignore them. That literally sets my day up. And if I try to do that at night, I fall asleep. So that is the time of day that I value. And if I don't get it, I have a rotten day.
Really?
Yes, I just need every single day, weekend, work week. That is, in fact, so for years, we traveled with children. So breakfast was what it was in hotels. But when we started traveling again with older children and we started traveling, just my husband and I'll never forget, we're at a hotel breakfast and he eats his breakfast standing at the kitchen sink after he takes his walk. And I'm like, why don't you at least just sit down and enjoy it? And he's just like, nope, got to get in the shower. And so we're sitting there and he is finished with his breakfast in about 5 minutes. And I've got my book and my coffee and I am set to enjoy it. And he's looking at me like, when are you going to be ready to go? And I said, okay, this is our new life right here. We're going to set some parameters. I am not giving up my breakfast time. So I don't really care what you do. You can go do whatever you want. But this is going to be non-negotiable for me. We can sightsee later or go visit family, whatever we're here to do. But I am going to have this time. And our marriage has been very healthy since then.
I was going to say, marriage talk with the Charltons.
I go have my breakfast and he totally leaves me alone. And then I'm fine.
Love it.
But I got to have it.
Okay. How about everybody else?
I think coffee is the obvious answer for a lot of us.
Well, for you, it's air conditioning piped out onto
I'll
your
never
porch
forget that you said that.
from the inside of your house
Yes,
to keep
well,
you
well, there we
cool.
go.
My goodness.
We're just building suspense here.
We will never know.
Just leave it. Just leave
So what she's talking about is that I have my porch, and when it's really hot outside, and sometimes it's on the west side of my house, so the sun will come down. It's a hot day. And I have shades now that help, but I will open the window behind me. And I will put a fan there, and the air conditioning is going in the house, and I will turn the fan on. So
Your electric bill.
out on my
Glad it's not my
porch.
responsibility.
I think it was quite
Well,
clever
then
of me.
when
but-
we did the podcast last week, I have cracked up over this. I just keep thinking about it. As you said, because it's been cooler outside, you sit on your porch, but you put black jeans on.
So the sun
It's on the west side of the house. It's cool.
Because your legs are warmer
No,
in
this
black
is-
jeans.
Honey, this is science. Okay. And I'll put a dark jeans on because it soaks up the warmth from the sun. That seems perfectly logical
So
to me.
please
And I wrote a
picture
book on
Marty
logic,
in
so I
dark
should know.
jeans when you think of the podcast.
So we are serious about what we're doing and
He does
when we
that.
get set up perfectly.
Yeah.
For me, it's best in the winter, in the dark, after the farm chores are done, in the room with the fire, and a glass of bourbon.
And that's when I fall asleep.
Yeah, and frequently on my porch there is either a cup of coffee or if it's later in the day, a glass of wine or a glass of bourbon. And then I feel the freedom now that I know that my comments have been edited in past podcasts, so I can say things that I
This is live.
I know. And I will smoke a cigar or two out on
nice.
my porch with my reading. And
I'm really worried that I can't edit you out on this particular podcast. It just is what it is.
It is what it is. But I will say that's why I said in the winter, Tanya, because all of that can be done by 5:30 because it's dark.
I was just going to say.
Oh, that's
And
true.
so,
that
it's
is
not
true.
9 o'clock and I'm sitting
Right.
down to try to read.
Well, and it also depends on where you're reading. You may have something different to drink or whatever. If you're on your porch or if you're inside during the winter and there's a fire going in the fireplace, and that may make a difference in what things you do.
I can read just about anywhere, on a plane, with people in the house. It doesn't matter to me. What really gets me into reading a book or not wanting to read it is the formatting. If the font is really nice and the words are spaced properly, or to me, what's properly, like what's easy to read, that really matters to me. Have you ever picked up a book and you're just like, oh, this is so inviting. It's hospitable the way it's laid out. And then you look at some books and you're like, I don't even care what the story is. I can't even focus on this.
For me,
that
it's not
matters to me
just
so
the
much.
font, it's the leading as well. The space between the lines.
Yes.
If there's a good space between the lines, I love it. I feel like I read faster too.
That's my problem with the book Mitchell gave me for Christmas multiple years ago that I keep trying to get to.
The Icelandic.
Yes, independent people. There's so many words on a page. And I'm just like, it takes me forever to get through one page.
Icelandic? No wonder there's a problem with it.
It's an Icelandic epic that won the Pulitzer like back in the 50s.
He has a thing with Norse mythology.
He does. And it's very epic. It's very nice. I've read half of it and I stopped. And I intend to get back to it, but it's just a slog because of the formatting.
It makes a huge difference with how I can, because I usually have to read when there's like people and all kinds of stuff going on. So I have learned to just tune it all out. But what I can't tune out is the formatting.
Right.
Yeah.
But it is easier if it is in English. I was, I wanted to read.
He's not reading in Icelandic.
I wanted to read Kristen Lavransdatter.
Oh yeah,
right, which was originally Norwegian, and I bought a nice hardbound copy, or old hardbound copy. So I go to, I sit next to my fireplace. I get a nice warm cup of coffee. I sit down. I open the book, and it's in Norwegian.
Only you would not flip the book open before you bought it.
Or did it look enough like
it looked fine from the outside?
He didn't open it.
It was titled Kristen Lavransdatter in Norwegian and English.
I think that is hysterical. I would just love to have seen your face when you opened it.
I was pretty disappointed. Yeah.
That's hysterical. Yeah, that was a great question.
There was one other thing I was going to say about that.
Oh.
I don't know what it was. Dedicated times though are very important. Oh, no, what it was. Sitting on a tractor.
Oh.
When you're listening to a book, sitting on a tractor, mindlessly driving is actually a great way to listen to a book.
Just because you're
not having to think about like traffic and like if you're listening to a book in a car, you have to worry about all that stuff. You're sitting on a tractor, you literally like just
going down a road,
turn around, going around the other road, and it's a great. I mean, my wife and I have both listened to lots of books.
And I wonder if there's something about being in an open, natural space that kind of opens up your mind to whatever you're listening to. I wonder if there's something to that. You know,
I've never thought about that.
Who knows?
You read in a deer stand too.
You know, I had to stop that because there's so many deer on the property that by the time I open the book, I'm ready to shoot a deer. It's rather disappointing, actually.
The deer shooting disturbed your reading.
It does. Yeah. It does. I used to, before we had a lot of deer, I actually got a lot of reading done. And now I don't.
Well, and what Paul said about reading in airplanes, if I didn't consider.
I said that.
Oh, you said that. Okay.
I read a lot on an airplane.
But when flying on an airplane it's become worse and worse over the years. You know, the seats get smaller and it gets more crowded. So the only reason I actually enjoy flying, but the only reason I enjoy flying is because it's dedicated book time.
It is. And nobody can get to you.
And nobody can get to you. And the only problem is that everyone now closes their windows because they've got,
That's right.
And then if the guy next to you, if everyone's closed their windows, and this happened to me, and the guy next to me decides he's going to take a nap, so he turns his light off, he's got his shade closed. I usually get the window seat because of this problem, and I'm in the passenger seat. So I go up there.
I'm that person that does that. Me too.
There's supposed to be a light for my seat. I go up there, I press it, it goes on his seat.
You could possibly be pressing the wrong button.
So I take my phone out and I got the book and I'm going like this and I'm reading.
I wish you leaned over and said, "Do you know Norwegian? Like, can you read to me?"
All right.
Okay.
I can't tell you how many times I've been in a plane with Martin And early on when I would travel just with my Kindle, and then Martin would be like, you have to turn yours off. Mine, I can read anytime.
They do, though. When you're flying early in the morning and they turn all the lights off, it is pitch black. But I just turned my light on. You're just turning on the wrong light, or either you need to
the light was my light, but somebody had, and it was covered by a plate, so I couldn't adjust it. This needs to be changed.
Okay.
Airline reform is coming.
Airline light reform.
Anybody else have a question? We'd love to hear. Come on.
I am a listener as of last year of the homeschool conference last year, and I've thought about writing into the podcast to ask this question. So it is a delight to be able to ask it right to your faces. Thank you for listening. My question is about art. Introducing art to your children, whether it be at a museum or in your home in a book. I will preface it with saying I have 5 boys. How do you handle nudity in art?
Oh, that's an excellent question.
Yeah.
We avoid it in the younger years. We don't, like our art cards don't have any nudity. And it's just...
When you
really,
say younger
even
years, what do you mean?
I mean, even even through middle school it's just, there's too much giggling going on, and you can't really control middle schoolers. We do have nudity in our 12th grade art history course, classical art. Is that the name?
Classical
of it?
art and architecture.
And architecture, yes. We do have nudity there, and Kyle Yonke was the author. So there was, the author of the program. He chose all the art and he uses it in his class at school. And he had one that I felt like was too nude, or I don't know. But I said, would you replace this one? And he gives me another one, and it's just as nude. So, and then he wrote me this defense of nudity in art, which we have put in the front of his book. It was very good. Because I am always concerned about that, because at a homeschool convention once we had on the front of the classical teacher, we had the statue of David, but we only had him from the waist up. But this man really gave me a hard time about that and said that I had violated his daughter because she was in the 8th grade and had never seen a man with his shirt off. And so I've been really nervous about it since then. So I was trying to do art with no nudity, but now I've got art cards with nudity on them. But they are for high school students. In our K-2, there is absolutely none. And I don't know, there's none in the new program that Carol Reynolds has written for us. There's no nudity. One time we did, by mistake, we put a picture from the Book of Hours on the front of the door in the wall. And I do the last look before anything goes to the printer. So any mistakes are ultimately mine. And so I had looked at it. I looked at the cover. We got 1,500 of them in. I opened the first box, excited to see them. It was the first time we'd published it. And there was, on the Book of Hours, there was this man that was mooning. Like he literally was, and I was just like, what have I done? And nobody noticed it. Nobody ever called about it. It was, thank goodness, because we have a graphic designer who clothed.
Yes, we have a way of dealing with this problem.
Put clothes on.
And we do, with some of the classic paintings we find that are like public domain or something that we use in our, like, it's beautiful stuff in the catalogs and different things. Aileen, our designer, will clothe people that are not clothed. So sometimes if you see a work that you've seen before, but you didn't know she had a dress on, it's like, well, she may not have.
In my own home, I would not do that. I would just let the art be the art, and I would let my children be exposed to it. But we have such a broad audience, and I don't want people to feel like they can't use our curriculum because it doesn't meet their standards for their children. I don't want to do that. And so we try really hard, but we have on the front of our Midsummer Night's Dream or As You Like It, one of those Shakespeare plays, there were some fairies and they were naked, but we loved the image. So our graphic designer put like prom dresses on them. They looked like they were wearing prom. I mean, it's just not a good thing. So we try not to do very much of that. But it feels like it's not fair to the artist even. So,
well, what do you do when, at some point you may want to take your kids to see the Renaissance art in Italy?
Yeah.
Most of the statues probably are nudes in some, because they're showing the human form, and it's not what's the word? Salacious in any way. And you have to, at some point, get used to that, right? I mean, because you go around and there's David in all his glory, and there's all kinds of other characters.
Right, but that's your choice as a parent.
Yes,
whether
it is,
if you know those things are going to be there, you can choose not to. I don't want people to have to feel like they have to look at everything we're doing and see if it's okay. So,
and can I recommend a book on this? I recommended this to Kyle, and he really liked it. Kenneth Clark, who did the Civilization series back in the 1980s on public television. I just loved this guy and his commentary on culture and art and all that. And I gave that book to Kyle to read. It's called The Nude. And he taught, and it's been a long time since I read it, so I don't remember what exactly he said, but it's a defense of that. So if you want to read more about it, that would be a good place to go.
I will say, I recall, I was in a private school in 7th grade, and the teacher had just, it was like a flip book, classical art. And I was flipping through it one day. I was the only 7th grader. It was like a 3rd through 8th grade one-room schoolhouse thing, and I had some time, and I was flipping through it. The only image I recall from that flip book is the birth of Venus.
That's right.
But also it was in an academic context that helped me understand that this is something to be appreciated, not something to, even something to be hidden away.
Right.
Like it's not. And so, that, even if you were to have something like that and your kids were to actually go through that, I mean, I think part of the sort of the advantage for me in that moment was the fact that I did not have another boy next to me at that moment.
That's right. I mean, I think at home you can easily do it and build respect for that without the giggling. But in a classroom, it is difficult, especially with 7th and 8th graders.
Sure. And if we advertise that we discuss this on this show online, we'll probably get the best ratings we've gotten.
That actually would be a good
nude.
It's traumatizing. That actually might be a great episode, because I know we could have Kyle. I was going to say that would be fantastic, because he does a wonderful job in the classroom, and that piece that he wrote on defense of using nudity in art has been very popular.
It has. And he and I went back and forth with it, because I was like, you don't know my audience base. You don't know. I'm the one that gets all the criticism, and I don't want to offend anybody. And then he wrote that defense for me, just because he was not going to give up on that. And he's right. But I, am trying to keep people happy. So,
and I wonder if we can get you that his piece, if you're interested. I'm sure we could find that article. It's probably
it's in the front of the book.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we'll help you with that. Yeah, because that might be a really good resource for you. But any other questions? Come on.
Are there any parts of classical education that you feel have yet to be rediscovered, or parts that need to maybe strengthen in this modern movement of classical education?
Good question.
That's a new one.
That's really good.
I wish we'd had that one before the show so we could have thought about it.
I'm going to jump to the quadrivium.
How's that going to be your answer?
Yeah, I
the
agree
liberal
with
arts, with the trivium, the grammar, logic, and rhetoric. We talk about those all the time. We've talked about them for 25 years. People are fairly well versed. The quadrivium being arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. I think as a movement, we don't understand the connection between music and astronomy to arithmetic and geometry. I think also embedded in that is an understanding of how the natural world works and the enchantment of the natural world and the innate proportions of the natural world that are put into it by God. And I think that, earlier, Martin, you talked about the ninth grader to start classical education, Latin, and then you wanted to add math. And I think a lot of times we're just like, well, math is just something that everybody does, so we don't need to talk about it. But I do think that there's actually a lot more beauty there that we need to plumb.
Yeah, the fact that there is this quantitative order at the bottom of the universe is something that we wouldn't think about unless we studied the four mathematical arts. And it's something we don't appreciate, but man, you read Plato and he talks a lot about this. So I think it's another witness to the fact that there's a creator of the world to me. The fact that there is this order at the bottom of things, both in language, in the way we speak, but also at the bottom of the mathematical foundations of the world.
And that music is not just a fine art of us listening to something beautiful, but that there's innate proportion in it.
Yes. Yes. I think that's the best answer right there.
Oh, thanks, Martin.
Yeah.
But you had a two-parter. So what was your second question? It was, is there anything that needs to be lifted that hasn't been spoken about? And then what was the second part of your question? I don't want to miss it. Strengthened. Okay.
Strengthened.
Because of in light of the modern, what needs to be strengthened in light of the landscape of modern education?
Oh, I have another one.
Go for it. Oh, sorry.
I actually believe we still have further to go on the front of Latin, and I would love to see the general assumption of a classical education to be not just some Latin, but mastery of Latin, and that students habitually come out ready to and having read some classic authors in Latin. Because there is a shift mentally when you have mastered a language to the extent that you could even start to think in it. And I would love to see that.
Cheryl Lowe would give you an A+ for that.
Oh, thanks.
She probably did give you an A+. She was your teacher.
I was, I don't know that I got A+ back then. I was in a meeting recently and people were telling me I had terrible ideas, then told me I had a good idea, and then told me terrible. I'm feeling really good in this show that I've gotten 2 A+. I got like a great and an A+.
Yeah. I mean, I do agree with that. And I would also say, and I'm probably more speaking to myself than what we do at Memorial Press, because we do, I think, probably a fairly good job of this, is poetry. We read so much. We talk on this show about novels and all this stuff, and we rarely talk about poetry. If they were doing a live a podcast with cameras and everything back in the first century, I'm not sure that would be the case. They would be talking a lot about poetry. So I think that's maybe a growth place for us.
Sure. Anything else? No? Okay. Well, thank you for joining us, everybody. If anything comes to your mind, remember, podcast@memoriapress.com is always open to you. We try to answer every question either on the air or by email, so we'd love to hear from you if the conference sparked anything on your ride home. And I think that's a wrap. Yeah. End of the conference, end of the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a good one.
Now we have to pack up.
We do. We do.
Have safe trip home.
I know.
Yes. And thank you for coming.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for coming to visit us in our booth.
I know. Yeah. We hope to meet you a little bit
This
afterwards.
rejuvenates us.
Yeah.
So now we know what we need to go back and work on.
That's right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. And that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us today on Classical Etc. by Memoria Press. If you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, or share this episode or comment. We love to hear your questions and your comments. If you want to learn more about Memoria Press, please go to memoriapress.com. This has been Classical Etc. We're so glad you joined us, and we'll see you next time.